Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1 minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco, and Kyle.
Yes, sir.
We live in amazing times in terms of technology.
Mm-hmm.
I know, we happen to be big Apple people. Yeah. Obviously, your mileage will vary. You have Samsung, whatever, Microsoft, whatever your product of choice is that you choose to use. I know both of us are Apple Watch people. Mm-hmm. We wear our Apple Watches, right? Two things I want to point about the Apple Watch. One, incredible display technology. There's rumors that eventually in the future we'll have micro OLED displays on it. It's incredible. And for those of you who've ever set up an Apple Watch, or I think this is even the same thing with some of the other watches, there's a very interesting moment where you use your phone to take a picture, real-time picture of your watch, and then they sync. What's basically happening is that your watch, and of course it's Apple, they create this beautiful, moving sort of animation. It's a QR code. Granted, it's a ridiculous QR code, but still at the end of the day, it's a QR code. And what's happening is that just like a lot of things, if you're familiar with home automation systems right now, HomeKit, Google, whatever, Amazon, all these things have basically symbols on them. Your phone, in part of the setup process, connects to that symbol. Basically, it scans that symbol. It's looking for a certain pattern of information. And then when it reconciles both this pattern that it thinks it's looking for and actually finding, that's how it creates the initial connection between the two devices. Why do I bring that up?
Why do you bring that up?
We're going to be talking about that. It's going to sound like trickery, but there's actually a moment in this minute that is fully based in real world technology that all of us have used on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely, and I have a note about that too, because here we are, minute 16 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, directed by Mr. Jon Favreau. We are still in the midst of the trial of Tony Stark, and so we thought to get through this, we'll bring in our own legal expert.
That's a great
man who knows his way around a podcast from the next reel, Mr. Ray DeLancey.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
There you are. Great to have you.
Have
you had to be here.
Discussions ever with the Senate? Have you ever had to appear before Congress for any reason?
I'm not allowed to talk about it legally.
It's redacted.
So what is your
20 years?
Statute of limitations. So what is your history and your experience with Iron Man 2?
So Iron Man 2, I have seen every MCU movie in its original theatrical run. I'm proud to say I haven't missed one yet. Iron Man 2, I remember seeing when it came out and being like one of the only people that liked it. And
good man.
I grew up on Marvel Comics, though Iron Man was never really one of them, except for when he appeared in the Avengers. Though I did watch the 90s animated series with Tony Stark and his amazing mullet.
Right. And the thing, too, is that Iron Man was not really a prestige character at the time, even when the movie was going to be coming out. Like, he was sort of a backbencher.
Yeah.
So,
but look what he's become.
I know, and now shot to the top 10. So let's see. We are in the thing, and we have we're still considering Rhodey's testimony. So he has been ordered to. They're going to show something. We're not exactly sure what, and he's still counseling caution to the senators. He says, "I think it's somewhat premature to reveal these images to the general public at this time." And of course, Senator Stern is just like, "Yeah, whatever. Just put the pretty pictures up on the screen.
Let's go. Let's see it."
So they label this weaponized suit intelligence. Now, for our younger viewers, they might not know what this is an homage to. For those of you who did not live through the very, very strange time after September 11th, there was this same kind of thing. So the images that we see are very clearly homages to the images that were shown to the American public as saying Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and we need to get in and go and do that. And of course, antics ensued. But very clearly, like, this is exactly what they're going for. And I guess by the time we got to 2009 when they shot this, I guess that it was okay to just be like, "Hey, we know that
it was no longer too soon." I thought that was pretty interesting, right?
I think, I mean, I don't remember. I think this is probably one of the first times when we saw these kind of images used in a irreverential way.
Right. Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, and then that's not to make light of the situation, obviously.
No, of course
all of
not,
us who
yeah.
lived through these things, no, we totally understand. But this is they've got this sort of with these grainy satellite images, and we'll talk about as we get through the next minute or two, the grainy footage. This is all meant to show, like, oh, look, the government knows what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, look at how fantastic their intelligence is. They have pictures, and they have enhanced those pictures. So Rhodey says these are attempts at making manned copies of Mr. Stark's suit. This has been corroborated by our allies. It's like, once again, even the language choice is very deliberate. But then things take a turn for the interesting, because we get some Tony tech here, because Tony gets to flex his little Stark technologies here.
He sees through this wall of BS.
That's right. And so he's like, oh, this is what you're going to come at me with? Like the grainy images? Well, let me show you what we're working at. So let's talk about what happens here. So I have my notes into two different things. First of all, the RDJ side, and then the Tony Stark side. So what is Robert Downey Jr. holding in his hand? So I found an article from Forbes called "The Story Behind Iron Man 2's Transparent Phone," and also they talk about this in the commentary as well. Jon Favreau says, we need to have him not just pull out a regular phone like he had in Iron Man. We wanted to have, what would the future phones be? And it's like, oh, clearly it's just a piece of glass. So he contacted the people behind the scenes and said, this is what I want. So he contacted Russell Bobbitt, who's the film's property master, and they made this thing. So it's a real piece of glass, and then it has a plastic frame around it, which he created using a 3D printer. And then he took it, and then he etched the Stark logo on the glass, and he also etched LG Electronics logo on there too, because they're going to write you a check. You gotta.
I mean, no, and right there. The funniest thing about that is, like, oh yeah, this is a phone. Like LG is going to build this phone. No, I mean, come on. And that's not a slight to LG. I'm saying any manufacturer, this is something that Stark himself probably would have designed. He didn't need to go to any. I
would
maker.
Expect that this is Stark Phone 1. And there are no others. Like, I don't think, I don't think Pepper's carrying one. I don't think Rhodey's carrying one. So I think this is the one and only one, because it seems like it's not only a phone, but it's also like a server, or at least connecting to the cloud.
Right.
And pushes it down, because I don't think he would have all this stuff on there. I assume that he has his own proprietary, Wi-Fi technology or whatever that he's going directly to his server going through. So then let's talk about then what's Tony Stark holding. So they just call it the Stark smartphone. It doesn't have a cool name or designation. It's not the Mark V or anything. It's just the smartphone. So as he pulls it up, we get a zoom in, and so I found the company that made this, and they have a really great webpage talking about their work on it. It's a motion graphics company called Perception. They're based out of New York, and they have a whole web page dedicated to the work they did on this, including the Stark Expo logo that we were talking about in previous episodes. They did all that, and we'll be referring to this more because they did a bunch of other stuff in the future too. But so they actually showed not only what is on the screen, like they shared their images they created for the screen, but they showed their prototypes as well. So they said, here's the 10 versions we gave them and what they went through. So you got to see all these different versions and very square and angular stuff too. And so they finally decided on the sort of round spinning, because they had to match what Robert Downey Jr. was doing with the actual phone, because he was really holding that in his hand. Those were his hands. That's his phone. He's really doing all stuff. And then they had to match the graphics to what he was doing with the phone.
Oh, wow.
Which is like a whole different level of technology stuff. It's hard enough to make cool graphics, but to have them like timed to that and have them be in like a quarter of the screen as you're doing it. Yeah. Perception, man. They're serious. So on his home screen, then he has 8 icons. So going to go some from top row and then bottom row. So the top row has Monaco. That's on the top left. So obviously he's planning his trip to Monaco. The second one is Prototype, and it has a picture of the Iron Man helmet and a suitcase. So that's going to be important. Those two things are going to be very important later. The next one is a Shield logo with a shield on it. Then the top right corner is Illuminati. We're going to get into that. Then the next row is Engineering, then Stark Expo, Senate, and then Q3 earnings. That was great. So apparently, knowing he would have to do this, like he already has the Senate stuff cleaned up. But let's dig into a little bit on that top row. So what is the Illuminati? Ray, are you familiar with Illuminati from Marvel Comics?
Not terribly.
Okay.
Only from hearing it.
So Illuminati is a group that was come up with by Brian Michael Bendis. So yeah, so sit back, everybody, because it's story time. So Brian Michael Bendis, I didn't mean you guys, like I'm at the audience themselves.
Oh, I was getting comfortable. No, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah,
please
so the
go
Illuminati
ahead.
Brian Michael Bendis came up with the idea, and he was thinking like, okay, there's all these really powerful people who are in charge of factions. Like, I mean, there's Professor X has the X-Men and stuff too, and it has to be like them have to communicate with each other in times we don't see. So he sort of did this retroactive continuity, retcon as we call it, where he went back and said after the Kree Skrull War, which is a can of worms I'm not going to open here because the show can only be so long, all these major players got together and said, look, world events are going to happen. We represent our individual groups. We need to be on the same page and sort of be moving in the same direction when bad things like this happen. So that group was Tony Stark, Professor X of the X-Men, Black Bolt, leader of the Inhumans, Doctor Strange, Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, and Namor, the Submariner. And also in that same room was Black Panther. So when they were together, so Tony said, like, we're going to be our own little superpowered UN. And so we're going to like other stuff. And Black Panther went, this is a terrible idea. Like, getting you guys together to secretly decide what everyone should do is terrible. Like, having no oversight, no connection to the public, this is going to go badly for you all. Good luck. I'm out. And T'Challa like walked out like, no, not going to happen. Turns out, smartest man in that room, because it actually did go wrong. So the nice thing about the Illuminati series is that it shows this group meeting in secret over the course of Marvel history, leading up until their disastrous last meeting, which is Tony Stark went, hey, this Hulk guy, he seems to be a problem. I think we should just kick him off the planet. Yeah. And he managed to convince all the rest of the Illuminati, like, yeah, kicking Hulk off the planet is probably the best idea. So they loaded him up in a ship and shot him into space. And so like, they're like, bye. Like, good luck on the small garden planet we've picked out that you live the rest of your life on. And so like off he goes. But turns out he didn't go there. He went to Sakaar. And basically you saw a version of that in Thor Ragnarok. But it was way, way worse because it was like a gladiatorial planet where he had to be Hulk all the time because everything was so violent and vicious and powerful that if he turned a banner, he would be killed in seconds. So he had to be Hulk all the time. And so Hulk ended up developing as a leader. So he became like a gladiator, and then he became a general. And like he had to get smarter and smarter because everything around him was stronger than him. So he had to become smarter than them too. So by the time he decided, hey, I'm going to go back to Earth and talk to these guys and kick them down, he was like this military general with an army behind him, and so that caused World War Hulk.
Wait, you forgot about the part where he falls in love with the Queen. That's right. Then the Queen is killed, and then the Queen is killed because they hit a bomb on the ship that he flew in.
That's right. Yeah, basically that Tony Stark had designed the ship to never be able to be repaired. Yeah. So when he went back to the ship, like, oh well, then we'll just use the ship and we'll repair it. Tony, like, an image of Tony Stark goes on, like, oh yeah, sorry, Bruce, I want to make sure you didn't get home, and blew it up and killed Hulk's wife.
Jeez, I mean, seriously, it's so.
And so then he's like, okay, now you're all gonna die. Like, he even beat the crap out of the Silver Surfer in that comic. It's really, really good. So yeah, that became Planet Hulk, and then when he came back to Earth, it was World War Hulk, and yeah, it was all because of the Illuminati and the arrogance of Tony Stark, which we have on display here. So. Story time is over. Now
let's okay.
Yeah, I highly recommend both those comics. The Illuminati, series, and Planet Hulk or Hulk. Greg Pak is a fantastic author. Yeah, check it out.
So is this Easter egg of this, and this actually just a few months ago, I think, about 6 months ago, this became a big. It was
our own Andy Nelson who pointed out to us
exactly.
That line had found it, and he said, "You guys need to talk about this."
So what is this? Is this just a wink, wink? Hey,
it's just a wink, wink. Well, it could be that what we're seeing, especially in this movie, probably more than almost any other Marvel movie, is loaded with threads that never went anywhere. So I think this is one of them. I think it's one of those like, we put it in there like, we're going to talk about this. And then they went, no, we're never going to talk about that again.
Could you imagine, though?
When the 10 rings were going to be a big deal?
Oh, yeah.
Could you imagine, though, if they did do either a Disney Plus series, like a short-term series, or even a film based on this that, like you said, went back and retconned certain things that have happened in the first 23 Marvel movies.
Yeah.
MCU movies.
If they introduce, let's say they introduce Namor, like obviously Fantastic Four we know is probably coming, like probably phase 5, like it's soon. But like let's say they introduce Namor and they went, oh yeah, Namor's been here the whole time, and then they go back and show Tony Stark and Namor and like all these guys who have been there, like they knew each other, T'Challa, like they all were there and had this conversation, like they've had these conversations over the course of it, and you get to see them talking about Thanos before Infinity War, and
then you find out there was a secret program on a certain Quinjet, and that secret program was designed to take a certain passenger to a
right. Jeez, look at that, Rob. Rob fixes movies. That would be great because that is one of the big unanswered questions.
My God!
Did a surface, not even space worthy Quinjet end up way out in Sakaar?
Oh, wow.
That's pretty good.
That's totally nuts. Now here's something just to note about this, and obviously this perception website, the people who designed this, kudos to them. You know how much we love the graphic design work that goes in behind the scenes. These guys did everything. When you go to their website, definitely check it out, experienceperception.com, as we said.
Yeah.
Okay, fully realized user interface for this phone. And, you go on the technology of the phone. I mean, transparent LED and LCD technology is a real thing. It's been around for 15, 20 years. It's got huge applications in virtual reality, augmented reality, retail, everything. This is all real. Can absolutely happen.
Yes.
Now, and there's a little difference between LCD, not to go on a deep nerd dive. LCD is reflective technology.
One I just did?
This is what the show's about.
Different kind of nerd. Just woke up.
Right. LCD is reflective. LED has its own light. This is most likely a transparent LED or transparent OLED display. But when you look at the screenshot, here's what I love about this. Let's not dwell on where's the power source for this. It's in the bezel. I don't know. Where's the processor? Like, how does that all work in just that tiny little frame? Whatever. I'm not even going to get it. It's wireless power. I don't know. It's taking the power off his reactor in his chest.
It's from the reactor.
Right. So let's just say that. Look at the interface. What I love about when you went down these icons, this is absolutely the phone of an eccentric, incredibly intelligent multi-billionaire.
Yeah.
Because it's not filled with junk.
No.
His 8 icons are the things he's doing next. It's the only stuff that's important to him. And if you look at the lower part of the interface, you can't really see it in the clip because it's obscured by his thumb. It's got an Iron Man, it's got a shield, there's a heart monitor, there's some networking stuff. Mail and phone. That's it. This guy is focused. He's not messing around doing ridiculous stuff with his phone. There's no like with the cameras.
No Angry Birds.
No, there's no angry. There's no.
At the time, that was a hot thing.
Sure. Oh, that's good pull. Good pull right there. No, I mean it really is focused on what he's got to do.
Birds does actually exist in the MCU too, because they actually have mentioned it at one point.
Oh, that's right. That's true. Okay, and then just from a technical side, in terms of how this scene is produced, okay, here's what I love. You know how you mentioned, okay, that he's playing with a piece of glass here, and they're filling all in the graphics and matching it to his motions. You also notice they even went in and added the reflection on his skin. You can actually see the blue glow from the screen. Now, that could have been a practical effect. Like, they've done that with lightsabers and stuff when they make Star Wars movies. I don't think it is. I think that was just post-production. Incredibly great work. Incredible matting work. Because it looks absolutely real and it's fantastic.
For sure.
Yeah, these guys did a great job.
Yeah. So we see then when he brings up I love augmented reality. And that's what the whole Iron Man helmet is. But like virtual reality, keep it. But augmented reality, oh man. And so when he does it and when he brings it up, it basically switches into auxiliary, AR mode, and then he targets where he wants to go and then hits the override and basically does Rob, it's basically airplay. He does a forced airplay.
And this is what I was saying. You'd say to yourself, well, what's the reality of that? No, hold on. Here's what it's doing. It's looking at the image that's on the TV. It's looking for the same electromagnetic pattern a device would be producing to produce that image. It is literally it is just a far more complicated QR code. That is an actual thing that could happen. Because those displays are putting out a certain pattern of electricity to create that image. his device is actually is matching the pattern to what it sees, to what it's emitting, and that's how he can contain control of it. That's real technology.
It says commandeering system and then U.S. Senate Monitor Network. So basically, like, his phone has found the U.S. Senate Monitor Network and is now taking over his own. And it's interesting because it's targeted, because you see him do it on the one and then swing over to the other one.
Yes.
So it's not like this is not broadcasting everywhere. Like, he's just basically sending it to those two monitors, so everyone in the room, all the press, can see this as well. And then it says Stark Industries Terminal Hijack System. I love that he took the time to name it. Like, he actually has a Stark Industries Terminal Hijack System.
Did you see? I think this is in one of the other screenshots. And again, this is from the Perception website.
Yeah.
In one of their non-use screenshots, it's actually called Starkjack Beta 1.0. There's actually a term for his ability to do this. That's too funny.
Why did they never use that ever again?
Right? Because he could have done that for anything. He could have been in Times Square, throw an image up on the buildings.
Technically, he does, because when he this is thank you, Ray. In Avengers, when Captain America is facing off against
when he
Loki,
plays the AC/DC
through the speakers on the Quinjet. So he does he commandeers the system, and obviously later on in Avengers, he actually commandeers their system and uses it to dig in. But yeah, he does. He literally like hacks in, so they're hearing AC/DC over the speakers on the Quinjet. Yeah.
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And also, I love it in ASCII. He has written "Welcome, Mr. Stark." He's such a hacker nerd.
This is just, I mean, I love this scene because and here's the thing is, as he's doing all this, it's clipping back and forth between, obviously, Senator Stern, who's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What's happening?
But then you got these great shots of Hammer and Rhodey, and Rhodey's just like, oh God, you're gonna make this worse. And of course, Hammer, not realizing what's about to happen, we'll talk about in the next minute. Yeah. Hammer's just like, oh, you're showing off. You son of a...
So Tony says, hold on a second, buddy. And then he hacks in and says, boy, I'm good. I've commandeered your screens. I need them. Time for a little transparency. Let's see what's really going on. If you'll direct your attention to said screens, I believe that's North Korea. And so he shows the footage. And in the footage, we see this giant robot come teetering out of a hangar and then like falls over it while shooting, and even ends up shooting the cameraman. You see blood splatter on there too. So this is actually test footage that another video effects company. This is in the commentary. He says another video effects company like sort of wanted to work on Iron Man, and so they sent in this stuff. So he they came to them and said, "This is what we want. Show us what you can do." They sent it to them, and they're like, "Yeah, it's great. Not good enough to be in the movie, but I mean, not to get the gig, but we're still going to use the footage." So they bought the footage from them, and then Perception put the North Korean filter over the top with all the numbers and everything, and then they used it for that. So they were basically like given this job. They did the one job. They didn't get the big gig, but they still got their footage to be in there. He did not, unfortunately, say who it was that did that. So if you know out there what special effects house put this in there, I would like to know. They said this was inspired by RoboCop. They wanted to have an ungainly sort of robot.
That was actually my first thought when I saw that was Ed 209.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was inspired by.
We're going to talk about that in the next minute.
Yeah.
Spoilers, but because I've saved it for then. But you know what I thought about this was this particular robot reminded me of the big robot from Doctor Who. There's the famous during Tom Baker's seasons, and they have a robot that looks just like this, like it's smaller, but the same sort of sensibilities in terms of design and stuff. But yeah, this is great. Okay, wait, great story that they do the work, they don't get the job, and they're like, well, that's a bummer. Hey, wait, you're still in the movie, you're still gonna get some money. And
Favreau just stand-up guy. I mean, he cut Olivia Munn out, gave her another role. Same thing. This company didn't use them, but still put their footage in the movie, so they can still say we've got footage in Iron Man 2.
Nicely done.
There is one thing I have to point out here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Tony uses his technology to look at what they have at the Senate hearing, the blurred images, what have you, and actually enhancing them to see, it's not really what it seems. Can you imagine what he could do outside of what they're doing at the Senate hearing? Like, he could expose Bigfoot Or he could expose Nessie.
That's true. So
he really has the power to do anything. He's got.
I
all
would
the
imagine
secrets.
that so it's usually because this shows like how much work he's been doing behind the scenes, because like he had access to this, like, oh, you want to see some stuff, and like brought it up right away. Probably was in that Senate folder, like just in case this should happen.
Right. Absolutely.
So and that's where the minute comes to an end.
Yeah. Blood splattered.
Yep.
On whatever camera lens that was. Frightening. Ugh. All right.
Yeah, so we'll see more of Tony Stark's hacking technology in minute 17. So make sure you tune back in for that. In the meantime, if you want to see what's going on with Next Reel and all of our family of podcasts, you can do so on Instagram. We are at the Next Reel, and we're putting up all kinds of stuff. We post pretty much every day. There's all kinds of stuff going on there. There'll be tons of Marvel Movie Minute stuff coming out there. We're putting clips from the show. We're putting cool images. We're doing our best to get onto the gram. So help us out. Follow us at the Next Reel. So thank you, Ray. Can you hang out for a little while longer as the trial continues?
You bet I can.
Fantastic. All right. So Ray's going to be here, so you need to be back here for minute 17. Enough said.
Bye.
See ya.